Yes. What's happening, everybody? We are back after a week off. I hope everybody enjoyed that week off. We had no fights. We had Ngannou versus Fury. That was a fight. That was an interesting fight. But we had no fights in the UFC. So your Uncle Weezy took the week off, did some behind-the-scenes stuff, got caught up on some stuff, really had a productive week off. But now I'm about to have even more productive week here, breaking down these fights, finding ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this UFC Sao Paulo card. As of now, 13 fights on this card. Is the Ribovics Brenner fight happening? I don't know. I have always considered Tapology to be like the most up-to-date and correct source for what's happening in terms of are these guys going to fight or not. Right now, the Ribovics fight is not listed on UFC Stats or ESPN.com, but it's still listed on Tapology. So I'm waiting to hear anything official about whether that fight is happening. My guy Brady, DFS by the numbers, just DM'd me a minute before I went on saying that the UFC signed some lightweight, and it's a lightweight. So that would be somebody that you would sign short notice if you were looking for somebody to take the place of Ribovics if he was unable to fight. And the name of that guy is Kanan Krzyzewski. Kanan Krzyzewski has been added to the UFC roster, and that news came out at 9:48 p.m. Central Time. So just a little bit before I went live here. But yeah, happy Halloween, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day out there and having a fun time. I'm dressed up, obviously, as a smooth motherfucker that loves to bet on MMA, and I hope all you guys had fun tonight, ate tons of candy, went out. But here we are, 10 o'clock Central Time, Tuesday night. So I'm ready to talk some fights. I'm ready to break down all 13 fights on this UFC Sao Paulo card from a statistics and tape study perspective. I got like 26 pages and notes on these fights, and I've got some spots that are already sticking out, and I'm waiting for props to open up on all the other sites to find if there's any other action that I want to add to what I already have. But this is a great card. I'm fired up to break it down with you guys, and I wanted to see what's up with you guys in the chat right now. And we've got Mushroom MMA saying, "What's up, Uncle Weezy?" He is first in the room, 2:26 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome back, UFC, says my guy Mushroom. Good to see you in here, brother. Hope all is well with you, and I hope you are ready to talk some fights, my man. And we got Jenna Marie in the room. What's up, Jenna? Saying, "Oi, Uncle Weezy, good to see you in here. I hope all is well with you as well." And we got Mushroom saying, "What's up?" to Jenna. We got my guy Victor de Jesus in the room saying, "Oi, yes, what's up, Weezy?" in chat. And the guy, he's got the flapjack stack emoji there. And we've got Victor saying, "What's up?" to Jenna, saying, "What's up?" to Mushroom. Mushroom saying, "What's up?" to Victor. We got my guy Lou Betcha in the room saying, "Weezy, we are only 2 events away from the return of Johnny by God Parsons. Your thoughts? Surely you like him more now that he won for America last fight." Yeah, I'd be lying if I said that this dude wasn't growing on me a little bit. And so I had money on whatever the name of the guy was that lost to him on the Contender Series by a split decision, and I hated the decision on that fight. I don't think he won that fight, Parsons. And then I hated even more that he got signed to the UFC basically for getting gifted a fight that he didn't win. But and then we didn't see him for like a year and a half, 2 years, because the guy's been dealing with a ton of injuries, evidently some concussion problems. So you never like to see anybody suffering from that, because that is something that has long-term effects. But yeah, Parsons looked great against Danny Roberts. He went out there for America and showed Britain why we are still independent from them after all these years. So that was great. It was great to see Johnny do that. He kicked the shit out of that dude, and I enjoyed watching it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Johnny back. He's fighting Uros Medic. That's a good fight. That's a really good fight. Uros is a phenomenal kickboxer, and that's what Johnny Parsons is. He's definitely got that Muay Thai striking base. Both guys hit really hard. That's going to be a fun fight. So I'm looking forward to that one. Don't know where the line is on it yet, but it's going to be an interesting fight. And yeah, Lou, I would be lying if I said that this dude wasn't making a fan out of me. Because he is. Good to see you in here, my man. We got MMA's biggest fan, 23, in the room saying, let's cash tickets this weekend, boys. Let's get it. We got my guy Snerius hanging out saying, oi. And we got the Cuban assassin in the room saying, Weezy Wheeze, happy Hollow Winslow. Let's get it. Dude, that would have been awesome. I should have dressed up like Kim Winslow for this Halloween. And if anybody wants to really celebrate this Halloween in style, I would suggest going on Twitter or going on Google and just putting in the search bar Kim Winslow Halloween costumes. You're welcome. It's going to be great. We got Kiwi Brew, my guy Eli in the room saying, Churall, what is happening, my man? Good to see you in here. Kid Kick in the room saying, what's up, Unk? What's up is I'm ready to break down some fights. I'm fired up to talk about UFC Sao Paulo with you guys. We got Daz Files in the room saying, oi, hi all. What's up, Daz? Good to see you hanging out in here as always. We got Swinger in the room saying, let's stack them like flapjacks this week. Let's get it, dude. We got Dix Insider in the room saying, oi, good evening, Prophet Weeziah. I heard you're giving out cans of soda tonight to trick-or-treaters so kids can get a good cardio workout carrying that brick of sugar around the block. Yeah, I always tell them to go take a lap, and that if they get back in quick enough time, that then I'll give them some candy. But then I usually don't, because I'm a prick like that. But you know what? These kids need to run more today. They're all so fat and they're all on drugs, man. They need more exercise. So maybe I'm a bit of a prick, but I think in the long run, I'd like to think that it's their Uncle Weezy looking out for their best interests rather than just me being a prick liking to see fat kids run. We got DFS by the numbers in the room saying, damn it. Okay, well, Brady bringing, in my opinion, some horrible news here. Big Marcel just confirmed Esteban Ribovics is out. Krzyzewski is in. I should have confirmed it. I knew it an hour ago. But they always would believe Marcel, because Marcel is always the name that we look to when we're looking to see who's getting replaced and whether fights are official or not. So, yeah, DFS by the numbers dropping the news. So that is one fight that is X'd off of today's card. I have no idea who the hell Krzyzewski is, so I won't break down that fight. But hopefully you can look to the cappers that post later in the week to get some insight on this guy, because it's too late for me to do it now. I'd have to sit here and watch tape while you guys twiddle your thumbs. We got Kid Kick in the room saying Brenner fighting November 4th. Okay. No. Yes, November 4th. Yes. November 4th is this card. Yeah. Swinger saying Uncle Hefner in the house. You got it, man. You got it, dude. And ring a ding ding. Mushroom MMA with the $10 donation saying, oi, yes, ring a ding ding. Welcome back, Unc. It is great to see you, man. I appreciate the donation. Keeping the lights on here in your Uncle Weezy's studio. This is gonna solve all my problems. This donation, I appreciate you, Mushroom. It means a lot, you donating to the channel, man. Big ups to you, brother. We got DFS by the numbers saying fight is 165-pound catch weight, by the way, and nice costume. Weezy, you got it, dude. Thank you. Yeah, so 165 makes sense. That also means now that here on Tuesday, Elvis Brenner is going to be in a situation where he probably has to cut a lot less weight than he was planning on. I bet he's smiling ear to ear about that particular situation. Who knows what kind of a stylistic matchup, how this guy Krzyzewski is going to differ from what he was preparing for the entire fight camp, and that was Esteban Ribovics. So I always think that's interesting to see what the stylistic change in opponent is, and whether that guy that's taking the short notice fight maybe has a little bit of an edge in that his opponent wasn't training for his particular skill set or what he does well. And we got Mushroom saying at DFS by the numbers, what's up, brother? And Brady saying, what's up to Mushrooms? And Kiwi saying, you nailing that costume. Thanks, man. That's what I try to do, dude. I just try to be a smooth motherfucker that talks about MMA stats and gets it right some of the time. Hey, folks, when you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time. We all know that. We're gamblers. We hit some, we lose some. It's how it goes, man. We got Mushroom saying what's up to Kiwi. We got Kiwi saying what's up to Mushroom. Giga Chad saying Lewis got sent to jail. He'll be back out in no time. Hopefully he wasn't on parole. Yeah, Derek Lewis, for those of you who didn't hear, got arrested for reckless driving. Was going 130 some odd miles an hour in a 50 mile an hour zone. I don't know, man. These cops with the ticky-tack violations these days, it's ridiculous. Let the man drive his Lamborghini in peace for the love of Jah. You know, and guess what? You know, think of it this way, folks. You know, if Derek Lewis was going 130, you know, how fast did that cop have to go in order to catch up with him, right? You know, think about that for a minute. That guy was driving 150, but it's okay when he does it because he's chasing down everybody's favorite heavyweight who takes his pants off after he wins a fight in spectacular fashion. I think that we are all on the same page here when we're saying that Derek Lewis has absolutely been railroaded. Free Derek Lewis, and I want him free in time to be able to take this Jailton Almeida fight on Saturday in Sao Paulo. Let's go. Does this boost his testosterone or distract him before the fight? I'm not exactly sure, but you know, hopefully he's got good lawyers because he just got a new contract. They'll get him out of prison and then they'll pay off a judge or something like that, and then justice will be served and everything's going to be just fine. Lou Bet is saying he won that fight. Bullshit, dude. He did not. Johnny Parsons did not win the fight against, I want to call the guy Freelo, but I know it's not Freelo. Oh, come on. What was his name, dude? Forget. Anyway, he did not win that fight, Lou. We got DJ saying, what's up, Weezy and Oi boys and gals? Let's get it. What's up, DJ? Good to see you hanging out in here. USA. It's great stuff. We got Mushroom saying, what's up to Daz? Remdog in the room saying, what's up, Unc? Sorry I'm late, but I didn't want to go 130 in the Lambo to get here. Yeah, my Jeep doesn't go 130, man. I mean, it starts to shimmy when it goes 55. So, yeah, man, I wouldn't even be able to get mine up that fast. That's for sure. Dono and Parlay King, let's go. Let's go. And Sneery is saying, LOL, free Derek Lewis t-shirt will be fun. Yeah, dude, I think that would be the first one on it. Whoever the first one on the free Derek Lewis t-shirt is going to make a lot of money because we got to free this man. This is clearly a setup job, some kind of trumped up information. The cop's probably lying. So, yeah, man, this is we got to support Derek Lewis and his right to drive his Lamborghini in the way that he best sees. Wow, dude, Mushroom's caddy does 200. Dude, please don't go that fast, Mushroom. You're going to die if you go that fast. But that is baller. But all right, you guys, here, let me share my screen with you. We're going to have the stats up here. This is the prop template. We'll kind of go through these fights. Look at the stats for all of them. That is filling the screen quite nicely there. And before we do, last week, losing week. We're on a 2-week losing streak, you guys. Down 1.2 units 2 weeks ago. And on the UFC 294 card, down 0.18 units. You'll see a lot of NAs on there. You know, I had the over 2.5 rounds in the Hendry Basharat fight. That was a no contest. Had the under 1.5 rounds in the Ankalaev Walker fight. That was a no contest. I had the peak scorecards equals no action. That was a push. I had the Naimov scorecards equals no action. That was a push. I had the Victor Hendry plus 3.5 points handicap. That was, you know, a no contest. So that was also a push. But Henry did win round one on one of the 3 judges' scorecards. So he was on pace to cover that bet. So, but who knows how that would have turned out. Hit the Khamzat Chimaev pick at minus 270. That was supposed to be a parlay, but it wound up not being a parlay. Hit the Makayev by submission at plus 210 for a half unit. And then the losses were a quarter unit on Muhammad Yahya by decision, a quarter unit on Warley Alves wins in round 1, and 1.1 units on Ikram Aliskerov Warley Alves fight to start round 2. I owe Ikram Aliskerov an apology. I faded this man against Phil Hawes, said that he didn't have good enough striking to hang with Hawes, and that Hawes has a great wrestling background. So I figured that, you know, that fight would stay on the feet and Hawes would clean up Aliskerov on the feet. and he touched Hawes once, and Hawes was done. So I was like, all right, well, that's just lucky because Hawes sucks. His chin is so bad. So I thought that, somebody more durable would do well against Aliskerov and Alves. And yeah, he smoked him in round one. So I had a bet basically, as long as Aliskerov didn't get a finish in round one, the bet was going to cash. And he got a finish in round one. So that ruined the week, down 0.18 units. So definitely looking to turn it around this week. And in order to do that, we're going to have to break down these fights and get to it right now, you guys. And let's see here. We got Cheeky Elbow in the room saying, I heard it was Chris Dawkins that arrested him. Yeah, Dawkins was a Philly cop. So he would have had to have been in Houston, but that would have been hilarious. Terry Vizzo saying, fellow Jeep guy, Weezy, yes, sir. I do have an old Jeep Cherokee, man. They're reliable. They're great cars. Zen Monkey in the room. What's up, Zen Monkey? Good to see you hanging out in here. All right, you guys, let's get right to it. We're going to start with the curtain jerker, which is going to be Kaue Fernandes going up against Marc Diakiese. We've got the odds on this fight. We were getting real close to a pick 'em here, but then a bunch of money came in on Diakiese today. And now it is Diakiese minus 151, Kaue Fernandes plus 131. Fight doesn't go to decision here, is plus money. So, the bookies think that this probably goes, the distance a little bit more often than it finishes inside the distance. Let's first start talking about the debutant here in Kaue Fernandes. Now, he's going to be 3 years younger than Marc Diakiese. He's going to be the more opportunistic finisher as a professional. He's got a 75% finish rate as a pro compared to 44% for Diakiese. Kaue is 6 wins and 0 losses to the finish in his career, while Diakiese is 7-3. So I'd say Kaue is probably going to be the more dangerous moment winner in this fight. But Marc is also explosive, especially on the feet. And Kaue is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He has a very aggressive guard. He's 2 wins and 0 losses to the submission. And Diakiese is 1 win and 3 losses to the submission. So the grappling game is probably one area where Kaue is more likely to win moments in this fight. Now, Diakiese is going to be 1 inch taller. He's going to have a 1 inch reach advantage over Kaue. And he's got the overall and UFC experience advantages in this spot. 14 more professional fights, 180 more minutes of cage time, and 1 more year as a pro fighter. Marc also has 14 more UFC fights and 167 more minutes of octagon time as Kaue makes his UFC debut on Saturday. Marc has also been more active as a pro, fighting 2 times a year, while Kaue only fights once a year. Marc is by far the slicker striker. He has explosive athleticism. He's unpredictable. He's spinning and jumping techniques that he throws, and he does have 2 UFC knockdowns and 2 UFC wins by way of knockout. And in his pro career, he's 6 wins and 0 losses to the KO. So Marc is definitely not out of his depth on the feet against a striker the caliber of Fernandes. In fact, I'd say he's the much better minute winner on the feet in this spot as well. And Marc's grappling game has been the best part of his minute winning skill set at the UFC level. He lands 3.32 takedowns per 15 minutes on 7.45 attempts. He has excellent 45% accuracy on those takedown attempts, and he's got 69% takedown defense, which is serviceable and above average for the division. He outcontrols his opponents 30% to 13%, winning over 69% of the control time positions his fights have been in. Marc has 6 wins and 2 losses in the UFC when he gets a takedown in his fights, and 1 win and 5 losses when he doesn't get a takedown. Marc really does an excellent job of mixing in his wrestling to win minutes and bank rounds, and we've seen that he's not afraid to go to the ground with dangerous guard grapplers like Joel Alvarez and Joe Duffy. Marc is as well-rounded as they come, so we can certainly find multiple paths to victory. And Marc is obviously the guy who's faced and beaten the much better brand of competition with 14 UFC fights under his belt compared to 0 for Fernandes. So this feels like a get-right spot for Marc Diakiese. Kaue is making his debut. He only has 9 pro fights in 9 years, and his conditioning is not good from what I've seen on tape. Kaue also showed he's a very dirty fighter in his last fight versus Douglas, where he landed a highlight reel head kick KO, but then tried to follow up with huge strikes while his opponent was unconscious, attempting to hit Douglas twice while the ref was pulling him off of him. So this guy was unconscious on the ground, and the ref already had his arms around him, and Kaue swung at the unconscious dude's head, not once, but twice, while the referee was trying to restrain him. I mean, that's so dirty. So I'm kind of surprised because that was his last fight. And when somebody, it's a combination of good and bad, because the knockout was phenomenal, dude. It was a head kick. He was in close. It was shin to chin. It was perfect. And then, he's trying to kill the guy while the ref is literally pulling him off. And it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild to see. I would suggest anybody watches that. It's the Fernandes versus Douglas fight. But anyway, I feel like Kaue is a very gifted moment winner, both on the feet and with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. But there isn't much process to how he wins minutes. His takedown defense is not good. He keeps his hands low while he strikes, and his head kind of stays on the center line, and he definitely slows down later in fights. This feels like an easy spot for Diakiese to go in there, mix his faster, more diverse and dynamic striking game on the feet with his wrestling and top control to win the minutes, bank the rounds, and either get a late finish if Kaue gasses here. And it could be Kaue with bad conditioning. It could be Kaue with intense nerves, making his UFC debut in front of a massive live crowd in Sao Paulo. And it could be a massive adrenaline dump in this fight, fighting in front of a massive live crowd for like the first time in his career. Fighting in LFA just doesn't, measure up to fighting in the UFC in Sao Paulo. So there's a number of different ways that we could see Kaue really slow down after the first round here, and it wouldn't necessarily even be because of poor conditioning. It could be because of nerves or an adrenaline dump as well. So, and Diakiese is just proven to be the more well-conditioned fighter with all of the tape that we have on him at the UFC level. So I could see him get a late finish or coast to a unanimous decision win in this spot, Marc Diakiese. So Marc just needs to avoid the big shot or the guard submission game of Kaue to coast to an easy win over the less experienced, less tested, and less conditioned fighter. So I'm going to pick Marc Diakiese to win this fight by third round knockout here. The bone crusher, Marc Diakiese, returning to his finishing ways against the young, up-and-coming, dirty fighter in Kaue Fernandes. Let's see what you guys are seeing in the chat here. We've got Kaue seems to accept bottom position. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he's a very, very good grappler. So, yeah, he kind of doesn't mind being on the bottom because he is very aggressive from his guard. So that can be a double-edged sword because it works when your opponent doesn't have great submission defense. But somebody like Marc Diakiese, he's been around for a minute, So catching that dude in an armbar or a triangle is a lot less likely than catching somebody that's 1-1 in jungle fight. So yeah, he does seem to accept it. Super Nesser says, my guy Kiwi Brew, what is up, dude? We got Cheeky Elbow saying live bet Diakiese could be on. Super necessary, says Kiwi Brew. Super necessary. You mean the follow-up shots with the ref peeling off of him while a dude is dead on the floor? That's what Masvidal said about the follow-up shots on Ben Askren. But remember, he got them in before the ref peeled them off. This guy was like still swinging while the ref was trying to peel him off. And by the way, they didn't have like any kind of a rivalry that I knew about. This was just like dirty. We got J-Bone saying that he is heavy on Diakiese. I'm with you, J-Bone. I parlayed Marc Diakise's money line with another fighter that we're going to talk about in a couple fights here. Victor De Jesus saying, stay away from this first fight, just watching to get the day started. He's got this popcorn ready. And my guy Bob Spikerman saying, Weezy, what the F is up, my man? What is up, Bob? Good to see you in here. Checking in all the way from the Netherlands. Good to see you, my man. Let's stack them high this weekend. All right, you guys, let's move on to the next fight. It is going to be Eduarda Moura at minus 515, going up against Montserrat Conejo Ruiz, who is plus 390. Massive underdog to the debutante in Moura here. And the fight doesn't go to decision. Juice to the tits here for a women's strawweight fight. Minus 200. 66.67 implied probability percentage that this one finishes inside the distance according to the line, when only 30% of women's strawweight fights finish inside the distance. So, yeah, the bookies are, in my opinion, are overpricing violence in this fight. But let's talk about it, because we needed to find out a little bit more about Eduarda Moura. There isn't much to be known, to be honest with you guys. Eduarda's 1 year younger, but she's 6 inches taller, and she's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage. So I think just because of that, that's something that's going to shift the line in her favor, being that much bigger than Conejo here. And Moura is very new to the sport. If you can look right here at the length of pro career, that's here in row 13 of the spreadsheet on the left third. She's only been a pro for 1 year and 6 months. She's got 8 or 9 professional fights in that time, amassing 8 finishes in those 9 fights, 5 by submission and 3 by knockout. So it's a very impressive and active start to Eduarda's career, where she's showing a very opportunistic ability to finish fights. But there isn't much tape on Moura. I know nothing about her striking, and I'm assuming for now that it's ass. What we do know about Moura is her grappling game is her bread and butter. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the base to her MMA game. She's heavy on top. She looks to advance position, land ground and pound, and get to those dominant positions where she can finish fights. She's got 4 finishes that we know of by rear naked choke, and when she's on her back, she's very aggressive looking for submissions. Moura is going to look to win on the ground here, as will Montserrat. So I see this fight coming down to who wins the grappling exchanges and who's the better wrestler, the better takedown defense and the better takedown offense. I think whoever wins that war is going to be winning the minutes of this fight. Now, Montserrat is the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. That's an on paper advantage there, statistically significant statistic there. She's more experienced overall and in the UFC. Ruiz has 4 more pro fights, 110 more minutes of cage time, and 8 more years as a pro fighter. Ruiz also has 3 more UFC fights and almost 30 more minutes of octagon time as Moura makes her debut on Saturday. And Conejo is a 7-time Mexican wrestling champion. So she's obviously very good on the ground. Ruiz pressures forward, exchanging bombs in the pocket. She backs her opponent up to the cage, and then she looks for the head and arm throw. That's her go-to move to get fights to the ground and keep them there. Ruiz has the unusual ability to be able to control her opponents from that position, unlike most who wind up getting their back taken when they try that throw. Conejo looks to finish with the Kesagatame arm lock, like she got against Janaisa Morandin, and land little punches while she racks up control time. If you can stay out of the clinch against Ruiz and avoid that head and arm throw, she can absolutely be beaten, as that seems to be her way to win fights. And Ruiz has fought, beaten, and lost to the much better brand of competition in her pro career, and it really isn't even close. So we could write a book about what we don't know about Eduarda Moura. What does her conditioning look like after the first round? We have no idea. How does her striking look? There's no tape on it. How does she handle adversity? There's really no tape on it. How will she handle a step up in competition? We don't know. She's only been a professional mixed martial artist for 1 year and 6 months. Will she have an adrenaline dump or massive nerves making her UFC debut in Sao Paulo in front of a massive crowd? Moura's a minus 425 favorite as I'm writing this, and I wrote this up like a little bit more than a day ago. As of right now, Eduarda Moura is minus 515. And we know almost nothing about her besides her base is BJJ, and she has a very solid ground game. I do think the reason that the line is wide is because what we do know about Ruiz. She's undersized. Her striking isn't very good. She sucks off her back. And if she can't get that head and arm throw to the scarf hold position, she looks lost out there. That's the reason the line is where it is. But there's some other information that we also know. Ruiz can wrestle. she's more experienced. She's also got a solid top game. And when she's fought real UFC level competition, while Moura has fought nobodies, there is no chance in hell that I would parlay up Moura at this number or straight bet her. And even though it feels kind of sickening, I could even see taking a small shot on the Ruiz money line here, or maybe live betting her after round 1 if Moura can't get her out of there, expecting her to maybe gas out because we've never really seen her outside of round 1. Expecting her to have that adrenaline dump, expecting for the nerves to take over. UFC debuts, there's just so many external factors to that fight for any fighter making their debut. There's a bunch of things that you just don't know how fight week is going to go that veterans do know. So we do see a lot of great fighters look really flat in their UFC debuts. The most recent example of that is Jacqueline Amorim, who cleanly won round 1, completely dominated it from pillar to post, almost finished 3 times with rear naked chokes, and then had nothing left after round 1. So we just don't know. So there's no chance in hell that I would parlay Moura up at this number or straight better. And, so, I mean, I'm just going to stay away from the Moura side altogether because we just don't know enough to lay minus 515 on a debutante here. And, this fight is disgusting and the line on Moura is even worse. I honestly have no idea who wins this fight, but I do think Moura is way more dangerous. So I guess I'll pick Moura to win by decision. But one of the things that I did do here was I bet the over 2.5 rounds on this fight, and I got it at plus 145. It's plus 130 right now, but look, that's a 43% implied probability on the line when 71% of women's strawweight fights go over the 2.5 round mark. And not only that, Montserrat Conejo in her 3 fights has been over that mark 2 of 3 times. And she's been in there with 3 better fighters than Eduarda Moura, Cheyenne Vlismas, Amanda Lemos, and Jacqueline Amorim. I don't think Moura beats any of those girls. Maybe Vlismas, because Vlismas has such bad takedown defense and get-up game. But I could see, this is a huge step up in competition. And Moura has seen, Ruiz has just seen a much higher level of competition here. And she's very tough. It took Amorim until round 3 to get Montserrat out of there. So I took a shot on the plus money for over 2.5. Montserrat is really tough, and she's not much of a finisher in her own right. So I'm just hoping that Moura does show some nerves, that she does get off to a slow start, that she doesn't finish this fight because it's a step up, because it's a UFC debut, because there's nerves, because there's a potential adrenaline dump, because there's just maybe a flat performance, or she doesn't handle the step up in the level of competition well. So I'm picking Moura by decision, but I like that over 2.5 at plus money. It's just priced really nice when we look at that, and that. The analytics like it in the small sample size that we have, but the big sample size tells us 71% of these fights go over 2.5 rounds, and we're only paying 43.5%. So that's the bet on the fight, and the pick is going to be Moura by decision. There we go. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Bob saying, going to have to use that Gilton under to pimp up some money lines from next week, dude. The Gilton under and the Gilton fight doesn't go to decision are massive, massive wide lines. It's a minus 3,000. Minus 3,000 for the fight doesn't go to decision in the main event this week. Absolutely crazy. Nick Riley in the room saying, "Oi, what's happening, Nick?" We got Tess Canal saying Bob Spikerman and Weezy in the house. You got that right, my man. Marc saying, "What's up, homie? Been a while since I've been live with Unc. Let's go." Good to see you, Marc. It has been a minute, but I always know that you're around watching, man. So it's good to see you in here live. I know I do my shows late, so yeah, thanks for staying up late with us, brother. Victor De Jesus saying, "I like that over 2.5 line at plus 130. I may join you on that. Ruiz is as tough as a $2 steak." Absolutely. She really is. There's no quit in her. The referee will have to step in before Conejo quits. So, yeah, I do like that over. And I think that, if Moura she does show any kind of weakness at all, that thing probably does cruise over, and I look good on that one. If Amorim couldn't sub her within 2.5 rounds of control time, I like that over. Yeah, I do too, man. That's what I'm going with. We'll see if it cashes, but I've been actually getting smoked a lot on women's unders. And the fact is that, just the average women's fight, whether it's 115, 125, 135, they only finish inside the distance 33% of the time between flyweight, strawweight, and bantamweight. So yeah, man, the overs are always decent looks in this in those divisions. Mark Schillingberg saying Montserrat is the chick who held Cheyenne in the side headlock for 3 rounds. I bet her in that fight. And you cashed that ticket, Mark, and that is correct. Yes, she had her in that scarf hold for 3 rounds. And Cheyenne was not happy about it, said that she was going to follow her home. They had some words. I think Montserrat might have called Cheyenne a puta. They were exchanging words. They're 2 passionate women who had just gotten into a fight. My guy MMA Jesus in the room saying, I think Moura subs her. Yeah, well, that's Moura's bread and butter. Whether it's ground and pound, she's got great ground and pound too, and great submissions. She really does have a really powerful BJJ game. So I think that she is going to be the minute winner on the ground, and she is definitely the more dangerous moment winner in this fight. Remdog saying, I always hear folks say, oh, she trains with Jailton Almeida. Like he's taking time from his own camp to do one-on-one drills with these girls. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, she trains with Jailton Almeida, but she's on her own in this fight. Jailton's not going to be in the cage with her. So yeah, man. Mark saying, always catch the replays. Appreciate you, dude. We got round 1, Moura says cheeky elbow, saying Ruiz been inactive and so sloppy. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to her game. There really isn't. But she is tough as nails. There's not a lot of quitting her. And she could dirty up this fight in a way that Eduarda has some difficulty with. And especially if she gets it out of round 1, we're going to see how that conditioning holds up for Eduarda Moura. Anyway, next fight to talk about, you guys. We are going to go to, yes, Angela Overkill Hill, plus 117. Denise D. Gomes, minus 137. Fight doesn't go to decision at plus 210 for this fight. I get the stats up on the screen for you guys and get a sip of water here. And we will break this down. All right. Let's first start talking about Angela Overkill Hill in this very closely lined matchup. Angie's the bigger straw weight. She's 1 inch taller. She's going to have a 1 inch reach advantage. Angie obviously has the experience advantage over pretty much anyone in the division besides Jessica Andrade. She's got 18 more pro fights. She's got 305 more minutes of pro cage time, over 3 more years as a pro fighter. She also has the UFC experience advantage with 20 more fights and 310 more minutes of octagon time. So with Hill's age comes a massive wealth of experience against the division's best fighters. And Angie is a very solid distance striker. She has a career negative 0.04 distance striking differential, way above average 44% accuracy, and above average 65% distance striking defense. Angie has never been knocked out in her 28-fight pro career, so she's very durable. And she's 5 wins and 0 losses to the knockout in her pro career. Angie stays busy. She feints a lot, stays long, but is also very good with her elbows when she's in the clinch. Hill always does well at distance, and she won't be out of her depth here against the smaller and less experienced Gomes. Angie has above average 76% takedown defense and an above average grappling efficiency. She's capable of mixing in the wrestling to occasionally win minutes, and outside of her fights against elite grapplers like Jandaroba, Dern, she does a great job of dictating where the fights take place. And Hill has obviously fought, beaten, and lost to the much better and more experienced brand of UFC competition. And on the Denise Gomes side, she's 15 years younger than Angie Hill. 15 years. You don't see age gaps like that every day. So that's very important here. And Denise is the more opportunistic finisher. She's got a 75% career finish rate in 8 wins, all 6 finishes coming by way of knockout. In addition, Gomes has finished both of her UFC wins against Brazil and Harigi. And that finish rate of Gomes is evidence of the power that she has in her hands and a testament to her heart and durability. Denise has shown she can survive getting 7 shades of shit beaten out of her and still have the drive, determination, and power to come back from the dead and find a KO in the third like she did in the Dudieva fight. Denise is still young at only 23 and rapidly improving her overall MMA game, which is still largely underdeveloped, but she's rich in assets that you just cannot teach. Power, heart, durability, and she absolutely has that dog in her, and those are all fabulous attributes to have. And Denise is a busy Muay Thai kickboxer. Excuse me, guys. Evidently, the only loss on Marina Rodriguez's amateur Muay Thai record came against Denise Gomes. She throws heavy low leg kicks. She covers ground fast, and her overhand right is fast and it's unusually powerful. If she lands that punch, it could easily end the fight. So what Denise lacks in size and technical striking ability, she makes up for in natural power and the ability to land heavy low leg kicks and punches. She naturally stays busy at range too, attempting 15.2 distance strikes per minute and landing 7.41 of them, both far above average for the division. So this is a very interesting hot prospect versus grizzled, experienced, well-traveled veteran matchup here. And we see several of that archetype of fight here on this card. So it's interesting. This is the first one of them. Her accurate. I like Angie Hill's size. I like her massive experience advantage and strength of schedule advantages. Her accurate, busy striking and ability to be able to mix in the wrestling against well-rounded fighters are really nice assets. And she's had close fights with way better fighters than Gomes, yet Hill's still the underdog here. I get it. Denise is 15 years younger, and she has that death touch, but she's still a very young work in progress that has shown very poor takedown defense and abysmal distance striking defense at only 41%. Even though it's in a small sample size, that's not good. You cannot be that hittable at this level and think that it's going to work for you. Add to that fact that Hill is maybe one of the most durable strawweights, never having been KO'd in 28 pro fights and 23 UFC fights. So this is a lot to ask of the young power puncher in Denise Gomes. I got to pick Angie Hill to win this fight by decision by being the more experienced, well-tested, and well-rounded fighter here. So we go to Tapology here. We're going to go to Angie Hill, overkill, winning this fight by decision on enemy turf in front of the Sao Paulo crowd. So this is a great fight. I'm really looking forward to this one. Such a great test for the very young and surging Denise Gomes at this point. We got MMA Jesus with the fire saying he likes Gomes KO. Dude, yeah, why not? I mean, that's how she's going to win fights, man. There's just not a lot of women that have power in this division. So Denise has that. So that is going to be the way that she wins a ton of fights. But I don't think she's knocking out Angie Hill. I mean, Angie Hill got kicked right in the face by what's her name? Lemos. And she came right back into it. She recovers quickly when she gets popped. And she's very, very durable. So I could see Gomes winning this fight by decision because she lands the bigger shots here. But I think Hill probably will be the better moment winner at distance striking range. And I think she'll definitely be the better moment winner if she, or minute winner if she mixes in the grappling. Remdog saying new mythical fighter, Shootbox Gomes, the first to KO Angela Hill. It could happen. Look, if anybody's going to do it, it would have been Lemos, or it could be Denise Gomes because she just hits that hard. She has that much power and she's very aggressive. We got Victor De Jesus saying I like Hill on this fight, especially as a dog. Not sure if I'm betting it though. I haven't gotten there yet either, but I still might do it. I was looking at the decision line and there's no juice in the decision line. You might as well just take the money line. So I'm still looking at it. Plus 117. I might get there. I was looking at it at plus 128 like a day and a half ago, I think, like right before Stat Diggers maybe. And I didn't pull the trigger then, and then it moved against me. So I don't know. I'm going to see where this goes because I think that these two ladies are pretty well matched. And I think that a lot of people think automatically if this one goes to decision, it's going to be Hill, but that might not be the case. And we've got Hang Die Promotions in the room saying over the hill. Overkill Hill might be over the hill, but she's looked good lately. She got absolutely smoked by Mackenzie Dern, but fighters like Mackenzie Dern and Virna Jandiroba, who dominated her, have a completely different skill set than Denise Gomes. So I'm sticking with my Hill pick, you guys. But let's move on to the next fight. It is going to be Vitor Petrino at minus 220 going up against the always exciting Modestas Bukauskas at plus 185. Fight doesn't go to decision for this one. Minus 180 here. So let's get the stats up on the screen. And let's first start talking about my guy Vitor Petrino here. He's going to be 3.5 years younger than Modestas. Vitor is the better finisher, obviously. Bukauskas' finish numbers are deceiving because his opponents usually die of boredom in the 4th or 5th round, while Petrino actually goes out there and shaves dudes' asses brutally. Victor has a death touch, while Modestas is really more of a point fighter. Petrino, 6 wins and 0 losses to the KO in his career, while Modestas is 9 wins but 3 losses. So Modestas is obviously prone to being knocked out, as 60% of his career losses have come in that fashion. So I'd say the far more likely finisher in this scenario is going to be Vitor Petrino. And Vitor is the much more likely guy to win moments and minutes in the grappling exchanges. Vitor is 11 of 15 on his UFC takedown attempts, and he outcontrols his opponents 52% to 17%, winning 75% of the control time positions his fights have been in. Vitor lands heavy ground and pound when on top, and Modestas showed that he's easy to take down when we watch his regional scene footage. He's easy to take down, but he's not easy to keep there. So Vitor might be able to mix in the wrestling to win some minutes, but he might find it difficult to keep Modestas down once he gets him there. And Modestas Bukauskas is going to be 1 inch taller. He's going to have a 1 inch reach advantage here. He's the more experienced fighter overall and in the UFC. He's got 11 more pro fights, almost 100 more minutes in the cage, and almost 4 more years as a pro fighter, while Modestas also has the UFC experience advantage with 4 more fights and 30 more minutes of octagon time. And Modestas has excellent conditioning. He's able to get back up when his opponents take him down, stay safe at distance striking range by using his length, his footwork, his lateral movement, and his in and out style to win minutes and occasionally land heavy shots. He's 4 wins and 1 loss in decisions in his pro career, and he's been scheduled for 5 rounds 3 different times in his career, and he's won the Cage Warriors light heavyweight championship not once but twice. Modestas is a lifelong martial artist. He's experienced, he's well-rounded and conditioned, and he's been tested at a high level, and he has process to his game. Dude is not an easy out. And Modestas has a traditional martial arts striking style. He kind of stays on his toes. He moves well laterally. He plants his feet to throw in combination, and then he uses his footwork to exit range. He mixes his kicks and punches well, and he also uses his length in a favorable way. He's not starching dudes or doing anything really spectacular, but he can slow down his opponent's output and draw them into the kind of low-volume point fighting style that favors Modestas. And he's definitely been more tested as a pro, and he's fought and beaten the better brand of competition. He's got 5-round championship experience as well as having more high-level experience. But Vitor is a very dangerous dude. He throws with such power, and he has that power in both legs and both hands. You can't teach power. Vitor just has it naturally. Modestas is the taller, longer, more experienced and tested fighter who also has the superior conditioning, and he's probably the better minute winner at distance striking range, as well as the more technical striker. That is all well and good until Vitor touches this dude once, and that can change this fight immediately. Vitor is still only 26 years old. He fought on Dana White's Contender Series when he was 24. He's only getting started in his MMA career. He's still undefeated, and his natural athleticism and power have taken him a long way. If Vitor ever learns to calm it down in there and let his striking flow more naturally, he could really round out his game and be a serious problem in this division. Modestas is a good test for Vitor at this point in his career. He won't give Vitor anything easily, and his conditioning and get-up game will make it difficult for Vitor to win as many minutes on the ground as he did against Turkalj and Pragnio. Still, I think Vitor can be effective enough in the grappling game here to get Modestas worried about more than just how much power Vitor has on the feet to open the door to landing that big shot. I'm picking Vitor Petrino to win this fight by second round knockout. Vitor Kaue Petrino by KO in the second round against Modestas, the Baltic gladiator Bukauskas. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. My guy Victor is saying that he's big on Petrino this week and he's got him in a few parlays. Well, as a matter of fact, Victor, it's a good thing you say that because you have the same name as Vitor Petrino. Vitor is just Portuguese for Victor. Anyway, I have parlayed up Marc Diakiese's money line with Vitor Petrino's money line. Got it earlier in the week, plus 146 on that parlay. I think it's a pretty nice plus money number. I think both of these guys, with Petrino fighting at home in Brazil, I think that's a huge advantage against a European fighter. And Diakiese really kind of just being, from what we know on tape, better everywhere than Kaue, except for maybe with submission grappling, moment winning. I think Kaue is better there. But either way, I parlayed up Petrino's money line with Diakiese's money line to get plus 146. I think it's a great bet. Petrino doesn't respect his opponents. It'll catch up to him. It may not catch up to him against a guy like Bukauskas, who really doesn't have power at this level. Awful defense, both of them. Yes. Yeah, that's interesting because Bukauskas is better on defense, but he's got a 50% distance striking defense, which is way below average for the division. But Petrino's is even worse at 46.61. But the power differential here, cheeky elbow, I think is what really sets this fight apart, because Bukauskas doesn't put a stamp on fights. And Vitor can always mix in the grappling if he wants to win minutes. And he's also showing that he's got the conditioning to go 15 full minutes, even with that body of his, and even with the fact that he's attempting 7.84 takedowns per 15 minutes. That's 4.1 more than the divisional average. And he's also attempting 13.87 distance strikes per minute, which is 3.96 more than the divisional average. So when I say that Modestas Bukauskas doesn't do much, the numbers bear it out. Below average strikes landed, below average strikes thrown, below average accuracy. He's never even landed a takedown, and he's been taken down 3 times. So, it's a below average output in the grappling, below average output in the striking. He's never even landed a knockdown in the UFC. So I just see Vitor doing more and landing the bigger shots here. So I like that minus 220. I think it's parlayable this week, and I absolutely parlayed it up. Petrino went down to minus 193, so I put more money on him. I think that's a great line, dude. And I might even straight bet it if I see it get back there again. The counters from Modestas, the leveler. Yeah, Modestas, cheeky elbow, he's definitely the better technical striker here. Vitor just kind of depends on his power. So Modestas is going to be faster. He's going to have the better footwork, and he's going to be the much better counter striker as well. I agree with you. But let's move on to this next fight here, as we've got Rinat Fakhretdinov going up against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Fakhretdinov, big favorite here at minus 350. We got Zaleski dos Santos, a fat plus money number next to his name at plus 285. Fight doesn't go to decision here, sitting at minus 145 for this fight. So let's get the stats up on the screen for you guys. And before we go on, I just wanted to have a quick moment of silence, if you guys wouldn't mind, and if you would, join me in a moment of silence for Victor Hendry's ball sack. That was absolutely vicious what happened to him over a week ago in the cage at the hands of Javid Basharat. One of the worst nut shots I've ever seen. And to see the man in that much agony for 5 straight minutes. And then evidently he was throwing up on the way to the hospital. That poor man's nutsack took an absolute beating. And if we could just kind of all collectively have a moment of silence for that man's nutsack and just wish Victor Hendry the best moving forward. And I hope that he recovers fully from that absolutely horrible, horrible ball shot that he took. So quick moment of silence, you guys. Right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I just want to send those thoughts out to our guy, Victor Hendry here. But let's first start talking about this very intriguing fight between Dos Santos and Fakhretdinov. And we'll first start talking about Zaleski Dos Santos' advantages here. He's got the overall and UFC experience advantages. 9 more professional fights, over 150 more minutes in the pro cage, 3.5 more years as a pro fighter, 10 more UFC fights, and 130 more minutes of octagon time. And Zaleski has shown excellent cardio in his UFC fights. Not that Rinat hasn't, but Zaleski's ability to have big third rounds in several fights is a testament to how well-conditioned an athlete he is. Elizeu is 6 wins and 2 losses in decisions in his UFC career, so he can push a pace for the full 15 minutes. And Zaleski is the more skilled striker. He's got a capoeira background and certainly likes to show that off in his fights. The flashy kick that dropped Sean Strickland and his jump knee versus Vendramini are both great examples of how creative, explosive, and powerful his striking can be. And he also beat 7 shades of shit out of Benoit Saint Denis and had Nurmagomedov in serious trouble in the 3rd round of their fight. Zaleski won't be out of his depth on the feet in this fight, but he will definitely have to respect the power that Rinat has in his right hand. Zaleski has actually fought with what we've seen from Rinat so far. The metrics are actually similar in terms of strength of schedule. But Rinat Fakhretdinov is almost 5 years younger. He's 1 inch taller, and he's got a 1 inch reach advantage here over Elizeu Zaleski Dos Santos. So nice measurables advantages for him there. And Rinat has crazy power. He's landed 29 distance strikes in the UFC, only 29. 2 of those 29 have resulted in knockdowns. He's landing a knockdown on 6.9% of the distance strikes that he lands. You have to respect Rinat's wrestling when the fight is on the feet, and he does such a good job of landing that missile of a right hand over the top while he gets his opponents backing up. Rinat dropped Lee with that right hand, and then he choked him out right after. He dropped Brian Battle in the 3rd round of their fight, and he banished Eric Spicely to the land of wind and ghosts in UAE Warriors in front of Dana White to get his shot in the UFC. And I mean, like when Rinat landed that shot against Spicely, Spicely was out for at least a minute there. It was a scary knockout. And Rinat's ability to win minutes and moments with his grappling is next level. Over a 3-fight UFC sample size, Rinat is 12 of 19 on his takedown attempts. That's 63%. He's averaging 5.82 takedowns per 15 minutes, showing 100% takedown defense on 3 attempts against, and out-controlling his opponents 89% to 2%, winning 97.7% of the control time positions his fights have been in. Rinat gets his opponents backed up to the cage. He's got explosive double leg entries. He keeps his opponents against the cage once they're on the ground. He controls the wrist, does an excellent job of using head position to control his opponents when they start to try to get back up. Rinat does an excellent job of using his striking to land big shots that set up the next big takedown attempt. He sticks to his opponents like glue. Once he gets a hold of you, he categorically refuses to fuck off. Ask Andreas Miaulidis and Brian Battle if you don't believe me. Rinat's grappling game is so good. And at the time of writing, Rinat is minus 315 and Zaleski is plus 265. So it's even wider now. If you're on the Zaleski side, you like the price of the line. The fact that he's fighting at home in Brazil, the experience advantage that he brings, especially at the UFC level, the flashy striking, the solid takedown defense in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game that he uses to either sweep or get back to his feet, and the explosive and flashy striking that can lead to knockouts, along with conditioning to put a solid 3-round performance together. All those are things that we like about the Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos side. With Rinat, you love the youth, the size, the crazy power on the feet, and the ultra-dominant grappling game, along with the bona fide finishing ability he has flashed outside of the Michailidis fight. Normally, when I see a line this wide, I look for reasons to bet the dog and the paths to victory possible to cash that ticket. And plus 265 for a veteran like Zaleski fighting at home in Brazil is very tempting. There are paths to victory for him, but Rinat is just too good right now. I love Rinat's power, his size, his conditioning, his finishing ability, his power, and his dominant, smothering grappling game. And I think this dude probably just keeps improving and winning while climbing the ladder to the top 10 of the welterweight division. And Zaleski will be another rung on that ladder. I'm going with Rinat by second round club and sub win here. So I'm going to go with Rinat getting the finish here. Second round submission. He's got a great front choke, a great guillotine that he finished Lee with, and he's gotten that choke on the regional scene a couple times as well. So I like Elizeu Zaleski, and I have no problem with people betting him at this number. There are paths to victory here for him, but I've shorted this guy Rinat too many times, and every time I looked stupider than the last time I did it. So I'm not doing it anymore. I'm picking him to win, but I don't have any bets on this fight. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Yeah, dude. I mean, Victor Jesus saying rest in peace to Victor Henry's ball sack. It was just awful. That was just awful. But thank you guys for having the for caring enough to do that moment of silence with me. It was all ticking balls. It was, dude. I thought you were going to say rest in peace to Matthew Perry, but yeah, rest in peace to Victor's balls too. Yeah, I think Victor's balls were the more violent death that actually happened. I mean, with Matthew Perry, you kind of knew it was coming. The guy's been, neck deep in cocaine for the last 25 years of his life. That you're on borrowed time when you're doing that much powder. So, but yeah, rest in peace, Matthew Perry, but really rest in peace to Vic's balls. Yeah, balls were definitely hot. We got Caddy Daddy in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, dude?" Rinat is a scary dude. He absolutely refuses to fuck off, dude. He just sticks to you. I mean, I bet on Battle that fight against Rinat. I think I got plus 150-ish, somewhere around there. I love this bet. I really liked it. Yeah, I felt like such a dumbass. I mean, like Brian didn't win 1 second of that fight. That was something else. What happens if Rinat is forced to stand? Dude, his right hand has got a ton of power. Dude, he's got 2 UFC knockdowns in 3 fights. So even if he's forced to stand, he's one of those guys that has so much of the threat of the wrestling that it makes his striking way more dangerous than it really is. If Rinat was just out there in a Muay Thai kickboxing match, yeah, he wouldn't look very good because they don't have to worry about him taking them down, shooting blast double legs. But you have to worry about that when you're standing in front of this guy, and Rinat knows that. So what he does, he takes that right hand and he throws it at you like he's trying to throw 150-mile-an-hour fastball through a brick wall. And if he misses, the momentum brings him forward towards the hips to where he can blast in on that double leg takedown. So even if he is forced to stand, I think he could drop Elizeu at some point. So, but yeah, if Rinat's unable to get the takedowns, yeah, then if you got a plus 265 Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos ticket, plus 285 right now, you are smiling and feeling real good about that. This should be a great fight. I'll just be watching, no betting for me. I've got nothing on this one either. And Marc says the same thing. Test Canal is his man. What is up, Bob? Bob knows Test Canal. Test Canal goes Bob, and they both know their Uncle Weezy. Let's go. I was right there with you on Battle. Never again. Yeah, that was hard to watch because Rinat just, absolutely destroyed him that fight. All right. Let's get to the next fight. It's going to be Daniel Marcos going up against Victor Striker Hugo. We got Hugo is a plus 206 underdog. Daniel Marcos minus 241 on the money line. Fight doesn't go to decision here, and minus 170 for this fight. Hugo is taking this fight on short notice. I forget who Marcos was supposed to be fighting. It was a pretty good opponent, but Hugo taking it on short notice after his Dana White's Contender Series win. So let's get the stats up here on the screen, and we're going to first start talking about Victor Striker Hugo here. Victor has got a 2-inch reach advantage, and Vic has the overall experience advantage with 13 more pro fights, 50 more minutes of cage time, and 4 more years as a professional fighter. And Hugo is a well-rounded, dangerous fighter. He's finished 17 of his 24 wins inside the distance. He's got 10 submissions, and he's got 7 knockouts. But he's also 7 wins and 1 loss to the decision in his career. So Victor can definitely find multiple paths to victories in his fights. 10 submissions, 7 knockouts, 7 decisions, and he's got 28 professional fights and over 200 minutes in the pro cage. So the dude is very experienced and he's very well-rounded, and you can see it in the numbers. And Hugo definitely throws with power on the feet. He has a huge overhand right that he uses not only to land with power, but also to help enter on his takedowns, not unlike Rinat Fakhretdinov. Victor has 7 wins and 2 losses to the knockout in his career. So even though I'd be more worried about Hugo's grappling game and leg lock attack than I would be his striking, but the power with which he throws on the feet, it has to be respected because he can definitely drop you with that overhand right. And Hugo is a dangerous grappler. He does a great job in getting his takedown attempts, and once he's on top, he can advance position, land ground and pound, and look to finish fights with submissions, especially leg locks. Victor's 10 wins and 1 loss to the submission in his career, while Daniel is 0 wins and 0 losses to the sub. Pretty easy to come to the conclusion that Hugo will be the far more dangerous grappler in this matchup. Now, Daniel Marcos doesn't know how to lose. He's 15-0 as a professional. He's got 8 wins by way of knockout and 7 wins by way of decision. Daniel's got really slick striking. He mixes his kicks and punches well. He's accurate and powerful, and he does his best work when he's the one pressuring. We've seen solid striking from him on Dana White Contender Series against Brandon Lewis and in the UFC versus Simon Oliveira and David Grant. And Daniel has shown solid takedown defense in the UFC, stopping all 6 of the takedown attempts against him. And on DWCS against Lewis, he stuffed 11 of 13 takedown attempts and was only controlled for 2 minutes and 40 seconds of that fight, despite the 13 takedown attempts. Daniel wants his fights to stay standing, and he does a good job making sure that happens. As we can see right here, 84% of Daniel's 22 minutes in the cage has been spent at distance striking range. This is going to be a fun fight. If it stays standing, I definitely favor Marcos. And if Hugo can get takedowns and start looking for submission, then I think Hugo is going to be the one that gets the nod. Victor is more experienced. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. And I definitely favor his minute and moment winning in the grappling exchanges. But Marcos has done a great job of keeping his fight standing, stuffing takedowns, landing the bigger and more impactful shots on the feet. The split decision win against Grant could have definitely gone either way. But when have we ever seen Hugo fight a quality opponent like Davy Grant? I think Marcos will be up to the task here, and I'm going to pick Marcos to win this fight by decision. So Daniel Marcos, really good striker, solid takedown defense. Hugo taking the fight on short notice. So I think if Marcos can continue to stop takedowns like we've seen him do against pretty good grapplers in their own right, I think that he's going to be the one getting the job done here. And then I think he gets it done by decision. Victor Hugo has been finished in 3 of his 4 losses, though. So that will be interesting to see. But I think a lot of those losses came many, many years ago. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got, it was Willie Catch. He was supposed to fight Daniel Willie Catch Santos. That would have been a really fun fight. Santos would have been walking Marcos down, and Marcos would have been landing big shots. trying to get his respect and get him to fuck off. And I don't know if he would have been successful in doing that because Santos really puts on the pressure. That would have been a fun fight. So definitely a little bit different of a stylistic matchup here in Hugo, but still a very aggressive fighter, a very good finisher, power on the feet, dangerous on the ground. So, yeah, Marcos Hugo is going to be a really fun fight, but I'm picking Marcos to win it by decision. All right, let's move on to the next fight here, which was supposed to be Elvis Brenner versus Esteban Ribovics. Rest in peace to this fight. Rest in peace, Victor Hendry's ball sack. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. And rest in peace to this fight. Damn it, man. I really wanted to see this fight. This is such great matchmaking. I really hope that this fight gets revisited. And I hope Esteban Ribovics has a quick recovery here. That's just a shame. But let's move on because that's what we have to do as gamblers. We can't bet on that fight. So let's move on to one that we can. And that is Ismael Bonfim Mahatinha at minus 465 going up against Vinc Pichel from hell, plus 365. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 165 for this fight. Let's get these stats up here. And let's first start talking about Ismael Bonfim's advantages over Vinc Pichel. Now, he's 13 years younger than Vinc. And Ismael actually has more overall experience than Pichel, who is 13 years older. That's wild. So you don't usually see the guy that's 13 years younger having more experience than his opponent. But this is one of the rare cases that that's true. Vinc has been very inactive as a pro, fighting just over once a year, while Ismael, who turned pro at the age of 15, has been fighting just under twice a year. Bonfim has 7 more pro fights and 25 more minutes of pro cage time. And Ismael is the more opportunistic finisher as a pro. He's got 13 finishes and 19 pro wins. That's a 68% finish rate. He's got 4 submissions and 9 knockouts. While Vince's finish rate is only 57% overall, and in his 7 UFC wins, only 1 of them comes inside the distance by way of knockout. Now, Ismael's a former pro boxer. Dude has very clean stand-up. He's 9 wins and 0 losses to the knockout in his pro career, and he has some highlight reel finishes on his resume. He stays behind a crisp jab, and he loves to pressure and be the one moving forward. He keeps his hands high in a Philly shell. He's as comfortable going first as he is countering. He rips a left hook to the body in nasty fashion and even mixes in some low leg kicks. He looks so good at distance striking range, and the numbers bear that out. Ismael has a positive 1.52 distance striking differential with way above average 56% accuracy and almost 69% distance striking defense. Winning minutes or moments at distance against Ismael is a very tall order, and I don't think the almost 41-year-old Pichel is up to the task. Ismael is going to probably toy with Vinc at distance. And then Pichel is going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. So he's going to be the bigger dude here. And he's got the UFC experience advantage. He's got 7 more fights and 105 more minutes of octagon time compared to Bonfim. Sorry about that. Cough break, you guys. Vinc has decent UFC distance striking metrics. He's got a positive 0.5 distance striking differential with 64% distance striking defense. He's landed 1 knockdown, and he's never been dropped in the UFC or knocked out as a pro. So Vinc doesn't blow the doors off when he's on the feet, but he lands more than he absorbs. He's durable, and nobody has ever really outclassed him on the feet yet. And where Vinc does his best work is winning minutes with his wrestling. Dude is 24 of 44 on his takedown attempts since 2013, landing 3.06 takedowns per 15 minutes and out-controlling his opponents 31% to 20%, winning over 60% of the control time positions his fights have been in. He's gotten outclassed on the mat by elite wrestler grapplers like Rustam Habilov, Gregor Gillespie, and Marc Madsen. But when he fights someone that isn't an elite grappler, he definitely does great work winning minutes with his wrestling. In Vince's 7 UFC wins, he's averaging 37.7% control time for, while only allowing 11% to his opponents. And he's 23 of 42 on his takedown attempts, averaging 3.68 takedowns per 15 minutes. So Vince is an efficient minute winner when he gets his grappling game going. And in Bonfim's 2 UFC fights, he's allowing 43% control time to his opponents. So this is a potential path to victory for Vince. Even though Vince has 0 career wins by submission, he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And Vince has fought the better brand of competition overall, but more on volume of UFC fights than level of competition, because Bonfim fighting Benoit Saint-Denis and Terrence McKinney, those are tough fights for someone new to the organization. And even on Dana White's Contender Series, Bonfim fought Abasov, who was the Fight Night's global 5-time defending lightweight champ and who had a 28-3 record going into that fight. So I'm giving Pichel the strength of schedule advantage, but wanted to be clear that Bonfim has not been out there crushing cans by any stretch of the imagination. And so this is another one of your classic young up-and-coming prospect against the grizzled veteran on his way out of the sport. They're sending the almost 41-year-old down to Sao Paulo to face Ismael Bonfim in front of a very unfriendly crowd. This is going to be a tough road to hoe for Pichel, but I think he's up to the task to give Bonfim everything he can handle and make this a close fight. Pichel's losses come against elite grapplers, and when his opponent doesn't have that skill set, Vince is a capable, well-rounded fighter who can find multiple paths to victory, and his conditioning has looked fantastic since joining the Factory X squad in Englewood, Colorado. Bonfim is 13 years younger, actually has more pro experience than Vince. He's the better boxer, and he's a well-rounded fighter in his own right. Vince has the high-level experience advantage, and I think he's the more likely guy to win minutes in the wrestling and grappling exchanges. I think this fight is close, and I think it goes the distance. Vince Pichel is going to surprise some people here. His low leg kicks and good lateral movement at distance will help him deal with the pressure of Bonfim. And I think Vince, in his excellent conditioning, can drag Ismael into deep waters here and make Ismael Bonfim parlay bettors very nervous. I'm going to pick Ismael Bonfim to win this fight by decision, but Pichel by decision at plus 550 has my eye, and that fight goes to decision at plus 125 is a trifecta bet on my prop template due to the fact that Pichel has went to this decision 7 of 9 times since the year 2013. So if we look at this here, this one, plus 125 is a 44% implied probability. 49% of lightweight fights see the scorecards, and 7 of 11 combined UFC fights between Pichel and Bonfim have seen the scorecards. That's 63.64% of their fights, while we're only paying 44% on the line. So it's a 19.19% discount when we compare their fight goes to decision rates to the implied probability of the line. And it's a 14.52% discount when we compare that fight goes to decision rate to the fight goes to decision rate for the division as a whole. So it's a trifecta bet. All 3 analytics are saying that they are positive and underpriced. So it's something that I'm definitely looking at for this week. I'm going to see where it opens on the other sites, see if money does come in on the under here, because it's a Bonfim brother. I think that people think that there will be a high probability of a finish, but I do like the fight goes to decision for this fight. Let's see. Oh, yeah. And the pick is going to be Ismael Maheta Bonfim by decision here. But I think Vince Pichel is going to make this very close. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We got a Marc saying that he has got a peace out. Much love. I'll catch the rest on replay. Thank you for all the hard work, brother. You're a beast for all the work and time you put in. Always appreciated, my guy. I appreciate those kind words, Marc. It means a lot. No round stats on DraftKings yet. Yeah, bets, I mean. You can only bet on winner or loser straight up. Yes, he's absolutely right about that. I had DraftKings up here earlier, but yeah, it's just money lines so far. We don't have any over-under bets or any props yet on DraftKings. You got to look at Bet Online if you want to get access to props and money lines, or I'm sorry, and over-unders early in the week. Vince's main training partner is Alex Fernandes, so he's used to dealing with faster, more explosive fighters that gas quick. Yeah, man, that's true, dude. That's a good point. I'm gonna bet probably the Pichel points handicap because I think that this is gonna be a close fight. Vince Pichel plus 3.5 is plus 180, you guys. I think it's a really good bet. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet because I want to see where it opens on the other sites, but that's a good look to me. And we got Victor saying, I got Bonfim on a parlay because that's what the cool kids are doing nowadays. Yeah, the Bonfim brothers parlay is juice to the tits, but these guys are massive favorites this week. There's no question about that. All right. Give me a second to get a cough out here. And we're back. And we're going to talk about Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosyan. Vieira minus 105, Petrosyan minus 115, a very slight favorite. Fight doesn't go to decision here, and minus 200 for this fight. Let's get these stats on the screen and talk about this classic striker versus grappler matchup here. And we're going to first start talking about Rodolfo Vieira. Now, he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here over Armen. And Rodolfo's got a 100% finish rate as a pro. He wins minutes and moments with his wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's 8 wins and 1 loss to the submission in his pro career. Rodolfo's very durable. This guy might gas out, but he won't quit, and he's very difficult to drop. I've seen this guy eat flush head kicks to the face like flapjacks. Rodolfo probably didn't shit right for a week after eating like 30 body shots in the Chris Curtis fight, but he never quit. So Rodolfo has a chin, and he definitely has heart. And Rodolfo's a 4-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. He's a 7-time Abu Dhabi world pro champion, 2-time Pan American and European champion, as well as ADCC submission grappling world champion. He's landed 13 UFC takedowns and he's yielded 0. He outcontrols his opponents 38% to 6%, winning over 86% of the control time positions his fights are in. He's got a good blast double leg takedown entries, and once he gets on top, his pressure is fantastic, and he's so dangerous when he's in top position because of the ability to get to the arm triangle and finish fights with that choke. Petrosyan has 35.7% takedown defense in the UFC on 14 attempts against, so the door will be open for Vieira to wrestle and get into the top position versus the kickboxer. Now, Armen Petrosyan is going to be 1 year younger than Rodolfo, and he's also 3 inches taller. And Petrosyan is a decorated striker, and it's without a doubt his base for MMA. He's a Russian karate, K1, and Muay Thai champion. Armen also has a world Muay Thai championship to his credit, and he was the Fight Night's global 205-pound champion before losing that title to Hassan Yousefi, and then he got his shot on Dana White's Contender Series where he beat Kaue Kolev. Armen is 6 wins and 1 loss to the knockout in his pro career, and he's got excellent distance striking metrics in the UFC. Armen is boasting a positive 3.51 distance striking differential with 50% accuracy and 58% defense. He's landing 7.83 distance strikes per minute spent at distance, and that's 3.67 more than the divisional average. Armen still hasn't knocked out anyone or even dropped anyone in the UFC, so the power hasn't translated yet, but it's definitely there. Armen is technical, fast. He mixes his targets and weapons really well, and his kicks to the body are so dangerous. Armen is going to have a huge advantage at distance striking range in this matchup. And I like Petrosyan's UFC strength of schedule better than Vieira's. The combined record of Armen's UFC opponents is 11 wins and 5 losses, while for Rodolfo, it's 16 wins and 18 losses. And the record of the guys Rodolfo has beaten is 7 wins and 14 losses, while the guys Petrosyan has beaten 7 wins, 5 losses. So definitely like Petrosyan's strength of schedule a lot better. So this is your classic striker versus grappler matchup. If Armen keeps this fight on the feet, he cruises and probably gets a late finish. If Rodolfo gets takedowns and advances to a dominant position, he probably gets a submission. I like Petrosyan's size, his conditioning, kickboxing, and strength of schedule. And on the Vieira side, I like the wrestling and grappling and finish upside he brings to this fight. The line is a pick'em, and that makes sense to me as both fighters have obvious paths to victory. Petrosyan has avoided the submission against top-notch grapplers like Bohayo and Gregory Rodriguez, so I feel as if he can do the same here. And if he gives Rodolfo enough resistance in the grappling game, then he can absolutely gas out Rodolfo and finish him late with body shots like Chris Curtis almost did. I'm picking Armen Petrosyan to win this fight by third round knockouts. Just attritional body shots that make Rodolfo just finally fold it in. So Armen Petrosyan by KO in round 3, I think is the way that I am going on this one. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got Caddy Daddy saying minus 200 for fight doesn't go to decision. Just might have to take over on 2.5 rounds and clinch my cheeks. Now, I like the minus 200 for fight doesn't go to decision. I think that's a good parlay piece this week. I love taking violence bets in striker versus grappler matchups. If this thing gets to the ground, Rodolfo's going to have a high chance of finishing the fight. If Rodolfo can't get it to the ground, a kickboxer the quality of Petrosyan, who's so skilled at going to the body, is probably going to finish Rodolfo Vieira eventually at some point. And because Rodolfo's striking just isn't on Petrosyan's level. So wherever this fight goes, you got two middleweights who are very good in their respective parts of their MMA games doing work. Somebody's going to be dangerous wherever the fight goes. So I like that bet a lot. Victor says he's big on Petrosyan. I definitely have to hedge with Vieira's first and second round sub. I have 2.3 units on his money line at minus 120. Okay. And I also have Petrosyan Petrino parlay 2.5 units at plus 157. I love it, dude. I'm big on Petrino this week, as you know. And I think Petrosyan does get the job done here. He's been put in bad spots by guys like Bohayo and Rodriguez. And this guy always seems to find a way out the back door. So if he's able to do that more than once, I think he's, because Vieira's conditioning is still bad. It's still bad. It's gotten better, and he's learned how to pace himself a little bit better. But when you look at this guy on the stool between rounds, it looks like he's hyperventilating. He just never really seems to be comfortable in there, Vieira. He's constantly looking for a way out of the fight. Mostly just him trying to finish his opponent, but it looks like he wants to just get in and out of there as soon as humanly possible. But let's move on to this next fight, which is going to be Caio the Natural Bohayo at minus 260 going up against Abus Magomedov plus 220. Fight doesn't go to decision here. Minus 165 for this fight. Let's get the stats up, and let's first start talking about the natural Caio Bohayo, as he's 2 years younger than Abus, and he's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Caio has the UFC experience advantage with 2 more fights and over 40 more minutes of octagon time, and Caio's very smart. He's a well-rounded fighter. He strikes southpaw, but he's naturally orthodox. He's got 4 submissions, 4 knockouts, and 6 decision wins. He's the complete package, and he has the fight IQ to know when to be aggressive and when to be defensive. And his 14-fight unbeaten streak is evidence of how well-rounded and smart of a fighter he is. Caio is a low-volume striker with a traditional martial arts stats. He bounces up and down on his toes. He's got that bladed stance and darts in and out of range, throwing big straight punches. Caio has above average accuracy and defense at distance, but he's low volume, and he does prefer to counter and set up his takedown entries when his opponents try to dart into range. Only 32% of Caio's octagon time is spent at distance striking range, and he does well there. But Caio does his best work in the grappling exchanges. He gets 2.61 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's got a fantastic blast double leg that he uses to get his opponents down. And as a matter of fact, Caio has said himself that he has the best blast double in the UFC. So he outcontrols his opponents 55% to 13%, winning over 81% of the control time positions his fights are in. Caio trained his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Damian Maia And this guy is very dangerous on the ground, not just winning minutes, but also moments, as Caio has 4 wins and 0 losses to the submission in his career, and he finished his last UFC win over Mihailo Alexejczyk by rear naked choke. Now, Abus Magomedov is going to be the taller and longer dude. He's listed at 4 inches taller, but I doubt it's that much because Caio Bahaio lies about his height. He's not 5'10". He's at least 6 feet tall. But Abus is listed as 4 inches taller, and he does have a 3-inch reach advantage. And Abus has the overall experience advantage with 11 more pro fights and almost 5 more years as a professional. But the amount of total cage time is actually very similar. Abus is a slick striker. He's long for the division. He uses his kicks really well to maintain distance and land big damage. He goes to all targets on the body with them, and his lifetime record of being 13 wins and 2 losses to the knockout is evidence of that. Abus has an average fight time of 5.33 minutes, and that's over a 27 fight sample size. So he's very dangerous early in fights when he's fresh. And Abus is a very high-level wrestler. He went on record saying he strikes so his fights will be more entertaining. But he is from Dagestan, and when he was in PFL, you would see Habib in his corner. This guy can absolutely wrestle. He just kind of keeps it in his back pocket for the most part. It's going to be interesting to see how the clinch exchanges go and which one of these guys does a better job of getting this fight to the ground. I think it'll be Caio. I think he'll have to take more chances, but it's going to be interesting because Abus can definitely wrestle. So this is a high-level middleweight fight, in my opinion. Abus is very experienced and well-rounded. He carries big knockout power early in fights, and even though he mostly keeps it in his back pocket, he does have excellent wrestling to back up the powerful striking. Abus has fought in reputable promotions outside the UFC, so he's well-tested against a myriad of different styles of opponent. Caio is also well-rounded and been well-tested at the UFC level. Caio wins way more minutes on the ground than he does at distance striking range, so it'll be interesting to see if Caio can blast double Abus and get his back to the mat. If he's unable to do that, then this fight starts to look really good for Abus, especially at the current line. The conditioning we saw from Abus in the Strickland fight was very concerning. If he doesn't bring 15 minutes of cardio to the Caio fight, he's fucked, especially on the short notice on the other side of the globe. We have to keep in mind that Abus doesn't have a full camp for this fight. So he's replacing Nursultan Ruziboyev on about 3 weeks' notice. So it's reasonable to assume after his last fight that his conditioning might not be where it needs to be in order to win minutes in this fight. I think Caio and Abus are close in skill level wherever this fight goes. And if Abus shows up ready and in shape, I think he's the value side here. But that's a huge if after what we saw in the Strickland fight. So I'm going to go with Caio Bahaio to win this fight by decision. Caio from the Fighting Nerds to win this fight by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We got DFS by the numbers is saying this matchup is so weird. We can look back at this fight and think 4-time world BJJ champion was a pick'em against somebody with a 30% takedown defense. Yeah. If you're talking about Rodolfo Vieira, yeah, then that's bizarre because, yeah, this guy does have terrible takedown defense, but we have seen people get out of bad spots with Rodolfo Vieira on top of them before. Even Shamil Abdurakhimov did it a couple of times. Or not Abdurakhimov. Even like early in his career against the Polish guy and against Safarov, you saw, them be able to get up a time or two to kind of give him a little bit of trouble. But yeah, Rodolfo is very dominant on the ground. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's a pick 'em. It's striker versus grappler. It could go either way. We're just going to have to see which one of these guys actually gets the job done. And we know for a fact that Petrosyan brings that 3-round cardio when Vieira does not. Striker versus grappler at a pick 'em is always weird. Whoever implements their game plan will usually look minus 200. Yeah, that's why I think that you're going to see a lot of action on that fight, and the Vieira Petrosyan fight in particular. So, yeah, great fight. But in this one that we're talking about now, I'm going with Caio Bahaio by decision. All right, let's get the next fight up on the screen. It's going to be Rodrigo Colmea Nascimento at minus 171 going up against Dante Almeida at plus 146. Fight doesn't go to decision for this fight, minus 160. So, let's get these stats up, and we're going to first start talking about our guy, Yogi Bear, Rodrigo Nascimento. Now, he's going to be 1 year younger than Dante, and Rodrigo has a functional striking game for a heavyweight. He's high volume, and he loves the pressure. He's got a negative 0.21 distance striking differential with above average 46.7% accuracy and way below average 44% striking defense. Rodrigo uses the pressure and volume, 14.62 distance strike attempts per minute, which is 5.05 more than the divisional average. He uses that to get his opponents backed up to the cage where he can unload with big shots or enter on a double leg attempt. Either way, Rodrigo's durability and chin make him able to use this strategy effectively enough to be a solid distance striker at the UFC level. But Rodrigo's a BJJ black belt with 6 wins and 0 losses career record of the submission. About 46% of Rodrigo's UFC cage time takes place in control time positions, and Rodrigo's winning almost 64% of those positions. He can use his wrestling to not only win minutes and eat clock from top position, but he can also advance to dominant positions and finish with chokes, just like he did in the first fight against Dante Almeida. Rodrigo is definitely solid wherever this fight goes. And Dante Almeida's advantages, I mean, he's huge for the division. Dude is 4 inches taller. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage over Nascimento, who's a big heavyweight in his own right. And Dante is going to have the overall and the UFC experience advantages here. He's got 4 more pro fights. He's got 125 more minutes in the pro cage. And that's in 4 less years as a pro. So Dante has also been the far more active fighter, fighting over twice a year, while it's only once a year for Rodrigo. Dante also has the UFC experience advantage with 2 more fights and 45 more minutes of octagon time. And then Mays is the better athlete and the more explosive striker, in my opinion. He's landed 1 UFC knockdown, and he has 2 wins by way of KO. He's coming off starching the washed-up Andrei Arlovski in the second round, and he seems to have the better footwork and all-around more diverse striking game here. And Dante has the strength to schedule advantage overall, as he's fought the better guys with more experience at the UFC level. So this fight is a rematch. The first time they fought, Nascimento won by second round rear naked choke. He got both of his takedown attempts. He got almost 2.5 minutes of control time, and he even outstruck Dante at distance 26-21. Rematches never seem to happen the same way the fight went the first time, but I do like Rodrigo to win this fight. I think this fight is close on the feet, but Rodrigo's pressure and volume definitely bothered Mays in the first fight and allowed him to be able to set up his clinch entries and therefore his takedown attempts. The second takedown he got against Mays led to the submission that ended the fight. Dante is going to have to use his footwork and lateral movement to deal with the pressure of Rodrigo and stay long and outstrike him from distance to win this fight, because the ground game and the clinch game should be all Nascimento. I'm going to pick the more well-rounded fighter that fights to his strengths here in Nascimento and say he wins by decision this time by mixing in the grappling, winning some minutes on the mat with top control and ground and pound, and also being the busier, more pressuring striker on the feet. So the official pick here is going to be Rodrigo, who puts the ass in Nascimento, because he has got a gigantic ass. And I think that gigantic ass is going to coast to victory by decision here over Lord Kong, Dante Almeida. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here, as we've got Cheeky Elbow saying, Dante, you mean Lord Kong, and I apologize, Cheeky Elbow, I do mean Lord Kong. Lord Kong for the loss. Caddy Daddy saying the rematch no one asked for. Yeah, it's kind of weird, you know? I mean, like, heavyweight isn't the deepest division, and sometimes you get a situation where it's like Mays wants to fight, Rodrigo wants to fight, and they're like, here are the available opponents. And then they're like, or you could just rematch Mays or Nascimento, whoever, depending on who you're talking to. And I think these guys it's about fighting a certain amount of times a year. I mean, you got to make a living doing this. And Rodrigo, he doesn't fight much. So, he might have been in a situation where he kind of needed to have a fight. And they told him, you want to fight Dante again? And he's like, well, shit, if I beat him again, it's another win check. So sign me up. And Dante, he's coming off a win over Arlovsky, and maybe he'd like to get revenge over Nascimento. So, yeah, it's an interesting rematch. I don't know why they chose to make this a rematch, but it's here. So let's try to make some money on it. Golden Octagon saying, oi, loser of this gets cut and a TJ Brown tattoo. I don't know if Nascimento will get cut if he loses, but and I mean, Dante Almeida is still a veteran. I don't know if either one of these guys is going to get cut, but having to get a TJ Brown tattoo would absolutely be the worst punishment for losing. And Victor De Jesus has 2 minutes on Nascimento Petrino parlay at plus 139. So you're very confident in Vitor Petrino as you've got him parlayed up with a couple of different guys. But I like that plus money there, Victor. I think it's a great play, man. I'm picking both of those guys to win. 100% to me, nothing's changed. I'm on Nascimento. Yeah, I always get a little bit nervous about when I think that it's going to be a similar result to the last time, but last time it was a second round finish. I'm picking a decision this time. And, when you watch the fight, and it wasn't just the Mays fight where you saw Rodrigo pressuring and moving forward, which is what you want to see from grapplers, but it's every fight. So I think that pressure and that high volume that he has, he throws a lot more volume. He's just a lot busier than Dante. So I think that combined with the ability to be able to out wrestle Dante and out grapple him makes it pretty likely that he's the one that wins this fight. But we got to remember it's a heavyweight fight. We always got variance in these larger weight classes where all it takes is one shot to drop or someone or end the fight. So we always have to be careful when we're betting on those types of fights. But man, I'm on Nascimento here for sure. All right, you guys, co-main event time. Gabriel Bonfim at minus 600 up against the gritty, tough, experienced Dane in Nicholas Dalby plus 450. Fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 300 for this fight. Let's get the advanced stats up on the screen here. Bonfim Dalby, and let's first start talking about our guy Gabriel Bonfim. What is he, Maheta or is he Mahetinha? Mahetinha. So evidently Gabriel's the younger brother, so he's the little sledgehammer while his older brother Ismael is the big sledgehammer. So either way, there you go, Mahetinha. So Gabriel, almost 13 years younger than Nicholas Dalby, and he's 2 inches taller than Nicholas. And Gabriel is without a doubt the more opportunistic finisher in this fight, without a doubt. I mean, he has a 100% finish rate and 15 pro wins. He's got 12 submissions and 3 knockouts. You'd think by those numbers that Gabriel is more of a pure grappler, but that's definitely not the case. Gabriel is dangerous everywhere the fight goes, and he's such an opportunistic finisher, especially with his submissions. And Gabriel, like his brother Ismael, is an excellent boxer. He stays behind a long, stiff, crispy jab. He uses that to land, get into range, and then he unloads with power combos when he's in the pocket. His stand-up is really, really good, and he often lands big shots that set up his submission attempts when his opponents shoot in on sloppy takedowns. And Gabriel is one of the most opportunistic submission grapplers I've ever seen. His guillotine is on par with Shavkat and Worley. He's got 4 wins by rear naked choke, 3 by guillotine, 1 by arm triangle, 1 by triangle, 1 by Von Flue, 1 Darce choke. He's versatile, and I've never seen him go for a submission attempt that didn't finish. So Gabriel is dangerous wherever the fight goes. Nicholas Dalby is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. Nicholas has the overall and the UFC experience advantages. He has 14 more professional fights, 280 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 5 more years as a pro fighter. He also has the UFC experience advantage with 9 more fights and 150 more minutes of octagon time. Dalby's a grinder, and he does his best work in attritional, grimy fights. Dalby has never been finished in 29 professional fights, so his durability and ability to push a pace for the full 15 minutes are his best qualities as a fighter. He's spectacular nowhere, but there aren't really any holes in his game either, other than a lack of power. All 10 UFC fights for Dalby that weren't ruled no contests went the distance. Dalby is in close fights, and he thrives making fights dirty and winning with pressure, volume, and clinch control. And Nicholas has fought the better brand of UFC competition over his 11 UFC fights. Bonfim has great wins too, but there are only 2 of them. So we kind of have to say Dalby is the more tested fighter at this point in their careers. So here we are with another young stud versus grizzled veteran matchup. Bonfim has looked nothing short of incredible thus far in the UFC and on Dana White's Contender Series. He's got 3 first-round finishes and just over 6 minutes of action. Dalby's on a 3-fight win streak, and he's 5 wins, 1 loss, and 1 no contest in his last 7 fights. His pressure and volume style, combined with the bladed traditional martial arts stats he has, gives some people problems. And he has made his high-volume attritional style work for him. Gabriel Bonfim is a minus 600 favorite on the money line right now. That's an 85.71% implied win probability. So there really isn't a lot of room for error there. And this is a guy in Bonfim who has a 100% finish rate against a guy who has never been finished, who has a tricky and unique fighting style. Dalby has a 2-inch reach advantage. He's a lot more experienced. He works at a high pace, and he loves the pressure like Bonfim does. And he's fought the better brand of competition over his UFC career. There's a lot of reasons we can find value on the Dalby side. But at the end of the day, he's flying from Denmark to Brazil to fight an undefeated, explosive prospect in front of a hostile crowd. Bonfim's skills on paper are better wherever the fight goes. And he's a way more opportunistic finisher, obviously, than a guy in Dalby who has 6 UFC wins and none of them coming by way of finish. Will Gabriel Bonfim be the first guy to finish the tough as a $2 steak Nicholas Dalby? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to pick Gabriel Bonfim to win by first round sub. I'm thinking guillotine. So not surprising, but what is surprising is that I think he will actually finish Nicholas Dalby, and I think he'll do it with his submission game. It's just so opportunistic. It's so good. And his striking sets it all up. So yeah, looking for Gabriel Bonfim to win this fight by first round submission, but minus 600. I can't do anything with that. I'm not going to be betting this fight. I'm just going to stay away from it. But I think Bonfim gets the job done here. All right, let's get to the main event of the evening, you guys. We've still got 40 of you hanging out live here. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. And please consider joining the Patreon, where you get access to these phenomenal advanced stats for $10 a month. For $20 a month, you get access to the prop template, which kind of tells you where the betting value is in over-under props. We've got some really great analytics here that can help you make better gambling decisions. And it's the best way to support my work. So look in the description of the video, the link to the Patreon, absolute best way to support my work. And I appreciate everybody that's on it. I've got over 60 paid members here on the Patreon, and I'm looking to increase that by a lot going into next year as I improve the Patreon and start to put out even more analytical products that allow us to be able to get into some of these lesser known prop markets that are a little bit untapped at this point, where we can kind of use these analytics that I've gleaned in order to get an edge over the books. So please consider joining the Patreon. Best way to support my work. But if you don't want to do that, hit that thumbs up and hit that subscribe, because it's free. And leave me a comment down below, even if it's just to say, oi, or just to ask me a question or tell me who your lock of the week is, what your parlay of the week is. Let me know. I love interacting with you guys in the comment section of these YouTube videos. But let's get on to the main event of the evening. It is going to be Jailton Mahaldinho Almeida at minus 450 going up against Derek the Black Beast Lewis at plus 350. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 3,000, you guys. 3,000. If we look here at the prop template, just so you guys understand what that means, minus 3,000 is a 96 99.77% implied probability that this fight finishes inside the distance. Bet Online basically saying they don't want any of your violence action on this fight, and that's about as unbettable a line as there could ever possibly be. About 3.23% room for error there, and that's when you have a 100% read. So this is going to be a very interesting fight, but I don't even think you guys really need me to break down this fight. I mean, this is as striker versus grappler as it gets. But let's break down the numbers anyway, because that's what we do here on your Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel. So Jailton Almeida is 6.5 years younger than Derek Lewis. He's got a 100% finish rate. His average career fight time in 21 pro fights is 4.38 minutes. So he gets in and out quickly. His grappling game drowns dudes, and his takedowns are really good. Very opportunistic finisher on the mat. The dominance of Jailton's ground game is next level. He's absorbed a grand total of 2 significant strikes, 2, in 5 UFC fights, and he's never absorbed more than 1 significant strike in any UFC fight. He has 10 UFC takedowns, and he's allowed 0. 93.67%, almost 94% of his octagon time is spent in control time positions, and Jailton is winning 100% of those positions. He outcontrols his opponents 93.67% to 0%. Even if Jailton isn't the better striker, such a small percentage of his fights take place at distant striking range that it doesn't really matter how the striking goes. Lewis has shown 52% takedown defense on 86 attempts against in the UFC and is getting controlled by his opponents over 30% of his octagon time. So Lewis is the kind of opponent Jailton can dominate in the grappling exchanges. Now, Derek Lewis, he's got the overall and the UFC experience advantages. He has 18 more pro fights and 230 more minutes of pro cage time. Derek also has 22 more UFC fights and over 200 more minutes of octagon time. So Derek pretty much has seen it all in the UFC. And Derek is the all-time UFC leader in knockouts. He's got 14 UFC wins by way of KO out of 18 wins. Derek has landed 9 knockdowns in 27 UFC fights, and he's landing a knockdown on 3.73% of the distance strikes he lands. So he's obviously incredibly dangerous when the fight is on the feet, and you have to be careful shooting sloppy takedowns against him. Just ask Curtis Blades. If Derek can manage to keep this fight standing, it's just a matter of time before he finds that big shot. But that is a big if. And Derek has definitely fought, beaten, and lost to the superior brand of UFC competition. The combined record of Derek's 27 UFC opponents, 198 wins and 136 losses. While for Jailton's opponents, the combined record of those guys, 18 wins and 20 losses. So obviously Derek has been tested at the highest level, while Jailton has mostly had easy fights and favorable stylistic matchups. So no hot takes here. No next level analysis. I think Jailton gets Derek down, gets to a dominant position, and finishes the fight in the first round. Obviously, it always has to be said, Derek is always live. This guy can KO any man on the planet if he lands. 14 knockout wins since the year 2013 for Derek. And if he comes out like a house on fire, like he did against Marcos Rogerio de Lima, anything is possible here. Jailton's dominance is unrivaled. Imagine only absorbing 2 strikes in 5 fights. Imagine not giving up 1 second of control time to your opponents and amassing over 93% control time in your own right. Jailton is a dominant fighter, and I think that continues in Sao Paulo on Saturday. But Lewis by KO is always worth a sprinkle if you like fat plus money numbers. But I'm saying Jailton Almeida gets this done first round by submission. And I cashed on Derek Lewis against Rogerio de Lima. Big 1-unit bet on him at something like plus 195. I mean, I loved it. But This guy Almeida is such a dominant grappler, and he doesn't waste time. I've never seen him wait more than 15 seconds to shoot his first takedown in a round. So, gotta love what this guy's doing. The numbers don't lie. His grappling game is about as good as it gets. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. This completes my last parlay of the card. I have both Bonfim brothers and Petrino being the third leg, 2 units of plus 120. I got Gabriel when he was minus 350, much better line than minus 600. So that's a nice workout. A lot of parlays here for Vic. I hope they cash, man. We got Metalingus in the room. It's been a minute saying, oh, good to see you in here, Metalingus. We got DFS by the numbers saying 5 units. Fight doesn't go to decision and minus 3,000 to win 0.16. Brady putting it out there with the max bet. You heard it here first on Just the Tip with your Uncle Weezy. My man DFS by the numbers. Max betting. The fight doesn't go to decision here to win a whopping 0.16 units. You got to love it. You know it cashes. And Caddy Daddy's saying that it is his favorite bet. It's mine too. Brady, I know it's tempting, but don't do it. Plus e-visas, Caddy Daddy, because it's probably a 99% chance. So you're probably getting like a 1% return on investment there. If you saw free money sitting on the ground, you'd pick it up, wouldn't you? Yeah, but it might cost me like, hey, here's $500, right? You give me that 500. And if you pick up that 16 before it blows away, you get your 500 back and you get the 16. But what if it blows away? Now you're out $500, you know? What if Jailton Almeida, now think about this, right? Let's just say Jailton knows how the gambling markets work. And let's just say Jailton goes out there and takes this guy down and he says to himself, hey, look, I get paid the same amount of money whether I submit this dude in the first round or whether I lay on top of him and don't submit him for a full 25 minutes, just frustrating him. And then he could have a couple of his buddies put bets on fight goes to decision at plus 1,800, knowing that Jailton was just going to lay on top of him for 25 minutes and not actually try to finish the fight. Because he could get a takedown in every round easily against Lewis. He could just choose not to do much. He could just choose to try to make it look like he's trying to lock up chokes, but he's not really getting there. Think about that. You know, the kind of temptation for these guys to pull something like that, you know, it would be hard to prove. So you never know, guys. You just never know. Crazy shit happens. I don't think you have to worry about Brady making that bet. And you don't. Still don't know why you bet Lewis money line at plus 185 instead of betting his KO with plus 170. Brady always busting my balls when I don't get the best lines. Yeah, man, it's funny how they'll put that Lewis KO at like usually just a little bit better price, but they've done it before where it's been a lower price than his money line. It's crazy. I wonder what the 1.5 rounds will look like. The under 1.5 for this fight, Caddy Daddy, is minus 350 according to my prop template. Minus 350. So that's a 77.78% implied probability. 52% of heavyweight fights finish in under 1.5 rounds that are scheduled for 5 rounds. But Derek Lewis has had 10 fights at the UFC level scheduled for 5. 6 of them have finished under 1.5. For Jailton, it's 1 of 1. So 7 of 11, 63.64%. So, yeah, you're probably overpaying a little bit at minus 350, but it's very difficult to see that fight going over 7.5 minutes. My guy, Yes Freak, in the room, always letting me know that Scottsdale, Arizona is watching you, Weezy. And we got Jonathan Aborto in the room saying, I'm late. Did you talk about how Almeida's inside the distance is more expensive than his money line? I'm not surprised, man. You might as well just bet the money line. I mean, everybody knows, like the bookies are showing a 97% implied probability that the fight finishes inside the distance. So, yeah, if his money line is minus 500, they're probably going to give you minus 475 on most books for his inside the distance prop. So they're just not going to let you get away with that. And I'm not surprised. They don't want that action. They're begging you not to bet violence in this fight, and they're making it basically an unbettable line so that they don't have to have any kind of exposure here. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You never know, dude. Like, even Giles could be like, shit, man, plus 275 for the over 1.5. I could toy with this guy for 7.5 minutes and then finish him after that. And he could have some money on that over, have some friends put it down for him and make a ton of money. You know, I'm not telling him to do that, obviously. I don't want anybody out there pulling in Derek Minner, but you know, you just got to know something. Nothing's ever a lock in this game. All right, you guys, we did it. We went through all 13 of these fights. I'm going to give you my tracked bets so far on this card. And there's only 2 units, but we're going to be adding more. The first bet is a Diakiese Petrino money line parlay. I got Diakiese at minus 144. I got Petrino at minus 222. That's a plus 146 parlay. You could probably get that even better price right now on certain books, but I got that for 1 unit. And then I've got the over 2.5 rounds in the Moura Ruiz fight, just counting on the durability of Montserrat Ruiz and hoping that the step up in competition for Moura will make her less likely to finish this fight. Plus 145 for 1 unit. And then we're going to give you the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week. We had to do a memorial for Victor Hendry's balls, his ball sack getting absolutely punched in or kicked into oblivion last week. So last week's Bootsy Collins Dogs Are Barking pick of the week, a nice little push as the Victor Hendry fight was called a no contest due to severe ball damage. But this week's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week is a pretty nice plus money number here. And it is going to be the Vinc from Hell Pichel plus 3.5 points handicap at plus 180. You know, Vinc is a good striker. I think he's going to be okay while this thing is at distance striking range. I'm not saying he's going to win the minutes there, but I think he's going to be okay. But we've seen Ismael Bonfim, who really does have that striking base, be audited every once in a while in the grappling exchanges, and we know that Vinc Pichel can wrestle. When he's not in there against an elite wrestler like Khabibov, like Gillespie, like Madsen, he's the one winning the minutes, winning over 75% of the control time positions, getting 24 takedowns in something like 7 fights. So I think that Vinc can stay safe at distance. I think he can win some minutes in the grappling exchanges here. And I think he's the more well-tested and more well-conditioned athlete here. So I think that this fight does go the distance. And I think if it does, Vinc Pichel could make this close enough on the scorecards that this plus 3.5 points handicap at plus 180 right now on Bet Online could cash. So this is going to be a 1-unit bet for me. It's not an official bet yet because I want to see where it opens on FanDuel, on Caesars, and on DraftKings, because potentially might be able to get a better number because this line is so wide. But your Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week is Vinc Pichel, the plus 3.5 points handicap at plus 180. And then who's it going to be this week, you guys? Who's going to be Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week? Who's going to win their fight in violent fashion that's going to have you saying, you know, man, that was nasty, dude. That guy just got his ass shaved out there. Well, in my opinion, this week, there's somebody that's going to do that, that's going to look like a big favorite. It's going to look like the much more powerful and much more opportunistic finisher. And he's going to be landing shots that, while it didn't get his last opponent out of there, it's going to get this one out of there. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Caddy Daddy saying Nascimento, the big ass. He puts the ass in Nascimento. And we got my guy DFS by the number saying Vitor Petrino. And you guys are correct because I was choosing between those two guys. It came down to Petrino and Nascimento for the ass shaving of the week this week. But this week's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is going to be Vitor Petrino to shave the ass of Modestas Bukauskas. I think that he's going to be landing the bigger shots on the feet. And I just don't see Modestas eating the kind of clean shots that Turkalj did at distance. And Vitor being able to kind of push that grappling heavy pace which we've seen in his last 2 fights, especially against Petrino, who's a kickboxer of similar skill to Bukauskas, I think you can use that same game plan to mix in the grappling. And when that's not working, land big shots on the exits of the takedowns to set up the big shots that might end the fight. So I know my guy Victor Diakiese out there has got Vitor Petrino in several different parlays. I think, and I've got him in a parlay of my own, and I think Vitor Petrino is going to be the one to go out there and shave some ass this Saturday. We did it, you guys. 2 hours and 5 minutes in. We broke down 13 fights. We talked all about these fights. I gave you my track bets. We got a Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking Pick of the Week. We got your Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And now we're all ready to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on UFC Sao Paulo. Thank you guys for hanging out tonight on another fabulous episode of Just a Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit that subscribe on your way out. Please leave me a comment down below. And please consider joining the Patreon so that you can do a solid for your Uncle Weezy, who provides so much for you guys out here for YouTube on free. It's the best way to support my work and make sure that I keep showing up here for free on YouTube every week. So thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for your attention. You can see me tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio, 8 o'clock Central Time for the DFS show with my guy DFS by the Numbers, Gordo Gambles, and Monk Maddox. And then you can also see me right back here tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time for Ask Weezy. We'll also be doing a greasy 4-leg parlay on Friday after weigh-ins for this event, and that will line up this week's content. I appreciate all you guys hanging out, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Let's stack them high for UFC Sao Paulo. Good night, everybody.